Harlem had seen violence before, but nothing like this night. 10 men crossed a line no one survives, and the man they thought powerless disappeared into silence. By morning, their world was gone. This is the story of Bumpy Johnson's quiet, unstoppable revenge. That night did not make headlines. No police radios screamed his name. No flashing lights painted Harlem's walls red and blue. But inside one quiet apartment, something was destroyed that power could never repair. Bumpy Johnson stepped through the door and felt it instantly. The air was wrong, heavy, unforgiving. His wife sat still on the edge of the bed. Her eyes avoided his. Her hands trembled in her lap. Nothing had to be said. In Harlem, Bumpy was feared. In that room, he was only a man watching the person he loved disappear behind silence. Someone had crossed the only line he believed even criminals respected. Family. The streets waited for rage. They waited for gunfire. They waited for war. But Bumpy did nothing. He closed the door. He sat beside her. And for the first time in his life, the most dangerous weapon he chose was not violence. It was silence. For days after that night, Bumpy Johnson moved through Harlem like nothing had changed. He still collected payments. He still listened to arguments in back rooms. He still greeted men who pretended not to notice the weight behind his eyes. But inside, everything was different. He stopped asking questions in public. He started listening in private. Names came to him slowly, a careless laugh, a loose comment, a nervous look when certain streets were mentioned. Piece by piece, a list formed in his mind. 10 men. Not rumors, not street fantasy. Real faces tied to real corners and real crews. Each of them believed they were protected, backed by money, backed by power, backed by men who thought personal pain could never reach the business of the streets. Bumpy understood something they did not. Power was not who carried the biggest weapon. Power was knowing exactly where a man was weakest. And in Harlem, weakness always left a trail. At first, it looked like nothing more than bad timing. A business that had operated quietly for years suddenly faced questions it could not answer. A delivery route was stopped without warning. A trusted connection failed to return calls. In Harlem, small problems were normal, but this was different. The pressure did not move randomly. It followed the same few names. 2 of the men were pulled into investigations linked to old activity that had once been forgotten. Another lost protection when his strongest supporter became a problem himself. One quietly left the neighborhood, chasing safety that no longer existed. The rest felt the shift. Meetings became shorter, partners grew distant. Even familiar corners felt unsafe. No one could explain why everything was collapsing at once. But deep down, they all understood the truth. Someone was guiding the fall, and somewhere in the city, Bumpy Johnson remained calm, visible, and completely untouched. By the time Harlem realized what had happened, the damage was already complete. None of the 10 men still held the power they once did. None had reliable protection. None could move through the streets with the confidence they once carried. Some faced long legal battles. Some disappeared quietly into smaller, safer lives. Some became whispers in the corners of Harlem, cautionary tales for anyone who might cross the wrong line. Bumpy Johnson never spoke their names. He never explained what had happened to his family. There were no interviews, No dramatic confessions. For him, justice was not about spectacle. It was about certainty. It was about removing their ability to harm anyone else. Years later, people in Harlem still talked about that night, not because of what they saw, but because of what followed. The most dangerous side of Bumpy Johnson was silent, patient, and unstoppable.